I took Musk out to dinner and spent an evening with him because one bad decision could put you out of business.
$680 million burn.
Running a company teaches you lessons that you can't learn anyplace else. He was the head of Apollo. He put man on the moon. Bring somebody in on your team who's had experience, or you'll bring in the management team.
Open for coaching, the mentors will show up. Welcome to Founders to Founder podcast, a podcast where entrepreneurs talk openly about building companies, making mistakes, raising capital, and playing the long game in the business. I'm Sardor Umrdinov, and my guest today is someone who has been more startup than almost anyone I know. Rick Citron has been practicing law in California since 1971. Over more than 5 decades, he has helped launch over 2,000 companies, working with the founders throughout some of the most critical moments in their journey, from forming a company and structuring equity to raising a capital and navigating complex business conflicts. Rick, can you tell me the most unusual founder conflict you have ever seen and the most surprising startup success stories?
Was founded by my brother, building reusable rocket ships in 1993. The technology was available. And we started a company to build reusable rocket ships. We raised $3 million from one investor and went out to raise more money and got stuck. My brother was doing it. He had done a prior company called Space Hab, which was a research laboratory that fit in the cargo bay of the space shuttle. He started from scratch, his idea, raised $240 million for it, went public, flew in the space shuttle 18 times. First commercial vehicle to go into space that wasn't government funded in the cargo bay of the space shuttle. And because of that reputation, he was able to start this rocket ship company. But he met with investors, and investors kind of laughed at him. He wanted to put tourists in the cargo bay of the space shuttle.
Like Bezos is doing now.
That's what led to Space Hab, which was a research laboratory, also a supply chain for the Mir Space Station, International Space Station. But when he started the reusable rocket ship company, he said, I want space tourism, and everybody continued to laugh at him. So I said, please don't talk about space tourism. Talk about satellites. There are going to be thousands of satellites in Earth orbit. It's 35 years ago. We knew that. So he started talking about satellites, and we started raising money. We built a management team. And one day, we're building prototypes in the Mojave Desert. And we would take groups of 20 people out to see our prototypes so they would get excited and invest with us. And one day we had about 20 people out there. I knew them all. I invited them. And there was this one little old man following us around. And I said to my brother, I know everybody here except that guy. And I said, who's that? He said, you don't know who that is. I said, no. He said, that's George Miller. I said, okay. He said, you remember Apollo? I said, come on. He was the head of Apollo. He put man on the moon. So I said, what's he doing here? We raised $3 million for a little tiny startup. He said, go ask him. So I walked over, I shook his hand. I said, hi, George, I'm Rick Citron. He said, I know who you are. You're Bob's brother. I said, what are you doing here? He said, there are 300 companies that have handed me paperwork to build reusable rocket ships, and which is the secret to getting to space, because it's 70% of the cost of launch and of putting something in space is the launch, the 7 minutes to orbit. And he said, if you can reuse them, the cost will go to a fraction of that. And he said, you're the only one that's actually putting hammer to metal. Everybody else is paper. And he joined our team. We gave him 10% of the company. We raised $680 million. We almost flew in 1998. We ran out of money. We knew we'd run out. We needed $1 billion. We had the balance of that money available to us 4 times. It was actually, paperwork was in place to raise that money, and fell through all 4 times. And so we went broke.
You have raised 680.
We raised and spent $680 million. We had a rocket ship 75% built, a reusable rocket ship in 1998.
$680 million burn.
Well, a lot of smart people, they didn't invest in our company because the stock was going to be worth a lot, like SpaceX. They invested because they wanted their satellites to go up. Yeah. So we had very powerful people who said, I want to control space.
It's you know what, recently I met a gentleman and he was talking about Elon Musk, his direction and misdirection, and misdirection is occupy Mars.
He knows it.
Correct. We're not going to have enough space in Earth for the human. Human has to go and explore the space. Like it's a misdirection. The redirection is actually satellites. Because if you would come and say satellites, everyone will basically vote about the burning and so much. Like people will not give money. But because you have so big of a vision and mission going to Mars.
Talk about Elon Musk in
I remember you met him, right?
in 2004,
Yeah.
when our company was in bankruptcy. This is 10 years later, still trying to get it off the ground. I took Musk out to dinner and spent an evening with him, trying to convince him to buy our company. And what he said, he was very smart. He was in his early 30s at the time. And very thoughtfully, he said, I want to build everything myself. Your rocket ship is built by 18 subcontractors and one prime contractor, each part. I want to build it in one place. And I had talked to our engineers about doing that because I knew that's what he wanted to do. And they said it'll take him 10 years to do it. Our rocket ship would fly in 18 months. And I told him that. He said, I got to try. And it took him 10 years. But look, he's doing 2 or 3 launches a week now.
Yeah.
So,
I think he even went to Russia, to Kazakhstan, Baikonur. Like they laugh at him that he never will be able to like put rockets together.
he's one very
He's a
smart dude, and
genius.
he's done
Yeah,
some
he's
incredible
genius.
stuff. Aside from the politics, we all can have strange politics. He's done some incredible stuff.
Yeah, I think when you're playing the game on that level, like you get involved in politics, you like it or not, you're gonna be part of it. Like it's hard to stay away.
Yeah, I'm a Tesla guy. I love
Me too,
Teslas. Batteries are the next big play, and he's taking that marketplace over.
Yeah.
And these satellites, I just can't believe they're getting permission to launch thousands and thousands of satellites.
Yeah.
When we thought there would be thousands up there, we didn't think it would be 20,000, and it will be.
Yeah, I think he's the first one who became a trillionaire, right? I think he already did.
Yep.
Number one thing, what kills a deal normally?
Not disclosing important information. I see deals all the time where there's important information which isn't disclosed up front and it comes out later. My philosophy is the opposite. All the information on the table in the first week.
Mm-hmm.
And if the other side likes what's going on, great. If they don't, you don't have to worry about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in accountants' time and attorneys' time and your staff's time trying to put a deal together that isn't going to happen. And we do have deals that don't happen. I like to take a deal from day one. A new deal just came in. I made a list of the 15 things I need to evaluate. I will then boil down to the 5 or 6 things that I think could make or break the deal, go over it with my client. And when he's out there, this particular client's searching for a buyer. When he goes to a buyer, he's going to take those 5 or 6 points, say, boom, 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 boom. This is what I want to know up front. Are we aligned? And if they say, yes, we are, then we start the negotiating process. A very special way of making these deals. Some people like LOIs, letters of intent. Some people like MOUs, memorandums of understanding.
What about before IO interest of, right? There is a before and before LOI.
A letter of interest.
Yeah,
a letter of interest can be, but usually it starts with an LOI.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that because you can go for months on an LOI without having your deal terms locked in. And then when you lock in the deal terms, they may not be the ones you want. So I instead start from the other side when I can, which is often. I'll say, here's the purchase price we want on this sale. Here are the terms that we want on this sale. Here's how much liability we're willing to assume on this sale. Here are the key pieces of the puzzle that we're concerned about. Is it an asset sale or is it a stock sale? Difference in price can be 15 or 20%. So it's not just the price you're asking, it's how the transaction is put together. And you find those key points and see if you're in alignment on them before you start. And then you can actually do what I call a binding term sheet. You literally, instead of a letter that, hey, we'd like to do this, when we do it, this is what it will be. Here are the contingencies that could make the deal not happen. And then you're facing it up front. There are a whole series of new rules that the California State Bar came out with this last year pertaining to fee splitting and disclosing it to clients. There's full disclosure requirements now. Very full disclosure.
Yeah, because I'm seeing the industry is growing so much, so big. Like who does the lead gen on the MVA, motorcycle vehicle accident, and personal injury one?
It kind of flabbergasts me that all these billboards say,
And
on the buses you see all these ads.
Yeah.
And they're making money off of it, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Interesting.
But it's one thing to pay somebody a fee to do something. It's another thing to share your fee, which you can't do.
Correct. And I think this is similar on the investment banking also, like on brokerage.
Yeah, licensing. Licenses are, anytime you go to do something like that, find an attorney who knows what he's doing on the kind of license that you need. Because they have, the answers are real, they're black and white. You just have to know what they are.
Rick, let's talk about one of the most critical issues for the founders. The most common mistake when splitting equity, do you think the 50-50 split is good or it creates problems?
It's really important for the founders to have a written agreement between them as soon as they can. That written agreement should say, how's the equity divided up? How much money are we each putting in? How much time are we each putting in? What roles are we going to play? What titles are we going to have? How do we make decisions on bringing in more partners? How do we make decisions on bringing in more money? There are about a dozen items that you put in a 2-page agreement together. And I have clients who I tell that to when they don't do it. And months later, when the company's starting to do well, they have fights because people's expectations are different.
Yeah.
And they haven't expressed them well enough. A sad story. One of my clients, who I've done many businesses with, started a new company, technology company for auto parts. Really, I would go into detail. It was a phenomenal idea, but and he's a good guy. And he brought in a programmer, and he brought in a marketing guy, and he brought in a guy to help him with money, and he brought in a guy to run the day-to-day business, part-time, working at night, not paying anybody, but saying we're all going to get some equity in the company. We formed a corporation for it, and they started building the software. And a month into it, I said to my client, "Do you have your founder's agreement yet?" He said, "No, we'll have it soon." 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. 10 months later, he finally calls me. "We're getting together Saturday. We're going to do the agreement that I know I've been promising you for 10 months. So called me up on Monday morning. He said, "Fell apart." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I wanted to give my marketing guy 3 points. I wanted to give my money guy a point. I wanted to give my operations guy a point. And the programmer, I'm going to give 5 points to because he's so important. He's done such a good job for us."
When you go into IPO, you can do A and B series, right? You can do 2 series. You can do A series and you can do B series.
That's one of the ways to do it.
One of them is like voting, another one that you cannot, right?
I just did one like that today.
Mark Zuckerberg and who else did it? I think Google's Sergey Brin, other one did it. I think they learned it from, I don't remember who they learned from.
You always want to give away as little as you possibly can. There's some things that are easy to give away. Some things can be very painful to give away. I've had clients who created a preferred class of stock that gave away so much that they lost, even though they didn't think they did, they lost control of their company.
What options do you have if, let's say, co-founder stop bringing value? And the co-founder has a large portion of the equity, but it doesn't bring any value anymore.
You have to negotiate with them to get them out of the company. Yesterday, I had a client who has 2 founders in his company who've added no value.
Yeah.
And he called me up and said, "I negotiated for them to give their stock back for nothing." Now, that doesn't often happen, but my client, we drew the documents today to get them signed right away. But if somebody isn't performing, you got to let them know. That's why you set the expectations in a founder's agreement.
What about on employees? You use phantom stocks? We have stock options, or you can do ESOP, right? ESOP normally comes later stage.
The simplest thing to do is to give somebody a stock option, because there are no tax consequences.
On stock options or phantom?
No tax consequences to stock option until it's exercised.
Okay, until exercise.
So if you give somebody stock, there are all kinds of tax things you have to worry about. When it's founder stock, when you first start and no value has been set, not a problem. You file what's called an 83B election with the IRS. Once the company has value and you start handing out stock, you've got a real problem because the people who get that stock have to pay income taxes on its value.
Yeah.
Stock
Because not even
options-
receiving any cash, they have to pay tax.
That's right. When people bring me a founder's agreement and they say, this guy's going to own 10% of the company, but we're going to start with 2%, and then he's going to get 2% when he does this and 2% when he does this, I say, give him the 10% now. The stock comes back if he doesn't accomplish his goals, which are clearly defined. That person's getting founder stock at the founder's price, penny a share, rather than 5 years from now when he would otherwise get the extra 2%. When the company's worth millions of dollars, he's got to pay income taxes when he gets that stock. So I like handing out all the stock people are supposed to get up front with a vesting schedule saying that we can take stock back if you don't do it. That's the best way to do it tax-wise. Now, some people don't want people to have voting rights. They don't want them to have any rights until the company sells. Then we'll do phantom stock. It's a complex process. If somebody has to stay with you, normally they lose everything. So it's not as much of an incentive for them. But sometimes when a company is older and very valuable, you can't just give them stock. And when you do issue stock options, there are rules about their exercise price. It's got to be at a certain value. And if you want them to get it for free, you just say, listen, I'm giving you phantom stock. When we sell the company, I've got one I'm working on right now. We just closed. 15% of the company was phantom stock for 2 shareholders.
But some people say the phantom stocks are not real.
Phantom stock is real, but you have to fulfill the terms, one of which is you have to be there when the company sells.
Yeah.
So if the company takes years to sell and you leave before then, you've lost your stock. Now, the downside to stock options and phantom stock is you pay ordinary income taxes on the stock versus capital gains. And that the difference in rates, 15, 16, 17% in taxes. It's a lot of money. So you'd rather have stock than have stock options or phantom stock. But the tax consequences can be prohibitive, especially if you have a company that already has a valuation.
ESOPs are normally done later stage, right?
Yeah, an ESOP is really for the benefit of the owners.
And I think you should have like 2.5 million in EBITDA. Like your value of the company has to be something, because to build the ESOP, it's going to cost like $500,000 or $1 million, right? To
Here's the issue on an ESOP. It's expensive to put one in place.
Yeah.
And my experience of them, I don't deal in public companies, but my experience of them is there are other ways to do it that are easier.
What are those companies?
Well, if you have an hour, I could go through. I've got the list on my
Just
computer.
give me one.
No, I can give you one. The Broadcom is just sold for $37 billion a couple of years ago. They started in my office.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. They did it. I don't take any credit. But I get to see these companies. It's really fun. One of my
You can
clients,
see the patterns, right?
Yeah, I don't do the patent work. Somebody
No,
else does
I
the
mean,
patent
you
work.
can see the pattern. Like
Oh, I
what
can see the
works,
pattern, yes.
patterns.
I
Yeah.
can see what it takes for somebody to be a CEO on a company that's growing at massive speed.
Yeah.
And I can, when you've been around, you get to watch the ones that work and the ones that don't work. Sometimes companies are growing too fast and the management can't keep up with it. And they need to replace it and bring in new people. But that even applies to a startup company. The investors look at the management team and they say, are these guys good enough to get the product to the market and maybe to $1 million in sales? And if they think they are, and then they say, okay, how far have they gotten? What's the value of the company today? And then they say, okay, where's the money coming from after our money has gone in? Because it's going to take more money. The average startup company in a technology arena is going to need $1 million to get to product. They need another $1 million to get to market. And then they need another $5 million to roll it out. I've watched them. They go through a pre-seed round where their friends and family and fools invest with them. And then they go through a seed round, which is what everybody talks about. And then they run out of money. They go to a post-seed round. And then they finally get to what's called Series A.
Yeah.
And once you get to Series A, you're in a different marketplace. And you've accomplished enough where the big bucks start rolling in. But
Yeah.
it's fun to watch that.
On the M&A of the law firms. So do you know any roll-ups are happening in the law firm industry, and what subcategory of law industry, I guess, right? Because there are different types of the law, right?
Yeah, there are like 100 basic areas of law. People don't realize that. They think, there's a PI attorney, and there's a criminal attorney, and there's a business attorney, and there's a estate planning attorney. They can name 5 or 6. It's more like 100.
You cannot just buy a law firm without having a bar license, correct?
Yeah, no. To be a lawyer and earn fees off a law firm, you have to be a law firm.
Correct.
Now, there are ways that accountants and CPAs participate in the equity and the payouts. There are fancy ways to do it. In the medical profession, you have to have a license to charge for medical fees, but there are ways that people set up companies to service the medical profession, and they can make money off of that. And that's how they do it in the legal profession as well.
So normally law firms, they join another bigger law firms and they like do the roll in equity and all that and continue running. That's what normally happens.
I'll tell you what's going on right now because it's different from years ago. In the old days, a big law firm with 100 people or more would say, we need to have a specialty that's coming up for this client. And they would look for a law firm that has that specialty and buy them and add them to the firm. Mm-hmm. That was a good reason to do that. Nowadays, what's happening is these big law firms are breaking up. And the specialty division of the law firm is creating their own firm. And that started happening maybe 25 years ago, where instead of being with the big firm because you wanted the reputation and the power of the big firm, and you still need those big firms for these big companies. I mean, when a company goes IPO, a big company goes IPO, there are 200 attorneys working on that project. It's not a little firm's job. They can't do it. There are a lot of niche practices within those firms where they can break out and do their own thing. I saw it starting in the estate planning arena. In the 80s and 90s, there were some cases that came down where big firms had done estate planning work and liability followed when somebody died, and they got scared, and so all of the estate planning divisions of these big firms broke off on their own. That was the first time I'd really seen that. I mean, you see it all the time now where a group of people break off from a big firm and start their own, and they're able to attract clients because technology allows them to accomplish a lot. And now with AI, you're going to see even more of that. You can have a small firm of 4 or 5 people that can handle a major transaction that beforehand you needed 30 or 40 attorneys to be on it.
How the lead gen world works on the law industry, like Call Jacob, those ones, some of the, like in home services, you can actually like do the paper call, paper lead. You can buy the case, like you can buy the job or something. In law industry, like MBA, motorcycle vehicle accidents, and I think personal injury lawyers, like some do the advertising or they do the paper lead or cases. Like how that is normally, or California probably has a little different law than other states, correct?
Every state has their own bar association rules. It was actually illegal to advertise as a lawyer until 1978. One of my clients started a firm, Jacoby Myers. He was the third partner in that firm. He left them. But that firm was sued by the state bar to take their licenses away from them because they were advertising. And it was tested and went through the courts. They said lawyers can't advertise. It's got to be legitimate advertising. You can't advertising fake things, but there was no advertising before 1978 in the law profession. Advertising can dramatically impact your practice. So if some small lawyer wins a big case and gets $1 million fee, he all of a sudden has all this money that he can use to advertise to bring in a lot more work and hire more attorneys. And I think that's part of what you're seeing happening with all these advertising firms. I remember one of my buddies was a personal injury lawyer back in the 80s. And advertising was now just legal. And so he tested advertising on television. And it was so funny. He spent $10,000 a month on advertising, and it just wasn't paying off. And one day during a break in the commercial, his son was watching him do the commercial, and his son came and sat on his lap during the break. And the producer said, leave him on your lap for the commercial. And the son spoke Spanish. My client does his pitch, which he's been doing for 5 months and not going that well. And all of a sudden, the kid at the end of the commercial says, come to my dad, in Spanish, come to my dad, he's really good. And it floated right off the hook. So one little tiny thing can have a dramatic impact on any business, and particularly in the law practice.
But can the personal injury lawyers or motorcycle vehicle, can they buy leads or not?
You're not allowed to pay fees based upon what you earn in all of these professions, medical, dental, legal. So you can pay somebody to do marketing for you,
Yeah.
but you can't pay them a percentage of the cases. That's illegal.
But what about, can you pay them for the contact information that somebody needs?
No, you can. You just can't. You've got to pay a fee, a flat fee.
Flat fee, not the percentage.
You can't give a percentage of the fees that you earn as a lawyer.
Got it. It's a similar.
It's sharing legal fees. You can't do that.
It's similar to brokers when you can pay set fee, but you cannot really, you can charge set fee, but you cannot really charge a percentage unless you have a broker license, right? Like FINRA license. Have you participated in a roll-up deal when the industry kind of similar companies gets together, like HVAC roll-up, I don't know, like maybe e-commerce roll-up, when they merge companies together as a one holdco and actually sell it to the private equity, whatever exit? Did you participate on the roll-up, like in the either joining in or on the holdco side?
I've had clients who do roll-ups. They'll buy up their competitors, and it's a good thing to do. I had one client who had a $15 million company in the aerospace industry, couldn't sell it. He had two competitors. He sat down with the two competitors, bought them both, put them into one entity, $45 million, got top dollar.
Yeah.
And because they were together. There are industries right now where there are big roll-ups going on. You know, this whole AI industry, it's all going to conglomerate. There are 400 or 500 AI programs out now. It's going to be 4 companies in 5 years, maybe less, that will have that whole marketplace. I remember the roll-up in the bandwidth business way back when you had telephone lines and to get onto the internet, and people would put up little knocks in the local neighborhoods, and somebody would have 20 neighborhoods because he went door to door to sell them. And then he would sell his 20 to somebody else who had 500. I had one client who bought up a whole bunch of them and
was a roll-up
went
also.
public with his company. But when somebody goes to buy you, it's an interesting game to play because how much will they pay? And there's a rule of thumb. If they have a P/E ratio, they know what the big company knows what their P/E ratio is. If they can buy you for a lower number based on your EBITDA multiplier, they're going to make the profit the day the deal closes.
Correct.
I had one happen last month. They bought my client's company and resold their company with my client's company and doubled their money.
Yeah.
So in buying my client's company. And so that's something that a seller needs to think through. What's the best price I can get for my company?
Who's a buyer, right? Not just like individual buyer, the strategic buyer or roll-up buyer is actually the better because they're going to be paid a premium.
That's right, because they're getting a premium. Now, the fun part is in my industry, in my business, as an entrepreneur, I've had 14 clients who invented things that became successful companies that you use every day. I counted them. I kept the list.
Yeah. Okay, Rick, if someone starts a company with almost no money today, what the first 3 legal steps they should take?
First thing is protect your IP. Do it yourself without an attorney, but protect it even if you don't have money. The second step is surround yourself with good people, build a team. Very few people can be successful without having a team around them. And you can't afford to pay them, so you give them ownership in the company. They're partners. And just do that very thoughtfully. The third step, and I tell everybody this, form a C corporation. Because then you have something to show people. You've got a basis of something. Even before you have a product, you can add stock out to your people. And also you start qualifying for limited liability, which is important, and something called QSBS, Qualified Small Business Stock. If you jump through the hoops, you don't pay federal capital gains taxes when you sell your stock. So, and that has a time period that you start to run as early as you can.
What kind of money they should be putting on side or they have to allocate for legal work when they're starting?
You know, our average client in the first year will spend $5,000 to $10,000. That doesn't include patents. We don't do patent work.
That is like to really put up good startup.
You set up a corporation, your relationships with the parties, your primary agreements that you need, legal protections in between. I've had clients come in to me, they spend $100,000 and they still don't have a corporation and attorney's fees, and it's crazy. I mean, you just don't need to get that deeply into it. Keep it simple. I have a new client who just came in. They have like 5 entities and they don't even have a product yet. And I said, what are you doing? They say, well, this is good for tax reasons. I say, worry about taxes when you're making money. But they had to spend a lot of money on attorney's fees to create these entities before they even get started, which is not the right way to do it.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, I agree. So you should not go too far to put it properly, otherwise it's going to be messy.
You want to clean it up as soon as you can afford to.
Correct.
So I tell clients, and they say, I can't afford to file for trademarks. Do it yourself. It costs $300 per category, and just get the trademark in. And then you have an attorney clean it up when you can afford to. Same thing for patents. It's harder to do a provisional patent, but you could find a student in college who's an engineer who will help you write a patent, and for a couple $100 maybe, and look on the internet, run your AI program.
Then yeah, later you can actually come and do the kitchen cleaning, right?
Yep.
To get everything organized. If you did something wrong, then you can correct it.
Well, some of the law schools have programs where they have students who will assist you. And that's a good thing. You can research that. It's not hard.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting to know.
I get entrepreneurs who come into me all the time who have students at USC and UCLA Law School who are helping them a little bit along the way.
Rick, over your career, you have interacted with remarkable entrepreneurs, including conversations with people like Elon Musk, you just mentioned, and Jeff Bezos. Can you tell me what really separates truly extraordinary founders from everybody else?
You're going to have failures, period, no matter how good you are. My best clients have had failures. And the issue is to work your way through them, find solutions every place you can. I mean, Musk stayed up day and night getting his factory running, and he was sleeping at the factory for weeks to get everything driven. These entrepreneurs are really driven to a point where your life is consumed by entrepreneurism, by making success for your business. I'm not sure that's the best way to run a life. Everybody should have balance. And each of us has our own balance, what works for us and what doesn't. For me, being with my kids and doing sports with them, I coached 40 sports teams over a 10-year period. That was my life. It was not my law practice or any given client, although I worked very hard in my law practice and I had a lot of wonderful clients. And that balance is really important. I've had a lot of very successful entrepreneurs who look back at their life and wish they had done some things differently. And the biggest thing is more time with the family. It's always more time with the family. And some people say, I wish I'd traveled more. Some people wish I had, taken a different path in my career. But the common denominator was time with family, which is really a big part of life, very big part of life.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I think we are kind of blessed working from home. You get to spend your time with family a lot.
That's right.
Yeah, you wake up, your kids come to you, and but during my meetings, like I'm sitting in my meeting with the entire organization, and my son comes in and just gets up on my neck, or he's just next to you and sits next to me and plays a Pac-Man.
Sure.
And he actually comes in and says everybody hi, and everybody's like, next see you. So our boss came. It's the best moments. But sometimes I have to close my door if I'm going to some important meetings. But even in that time, kind of I feel bad. Like my son knocks doors that he wants to get in, and like he calls me. Yeah. Still, I think I'm one of the blessed who gets to spend a lot of time with kids, because I don't think a lot of people do that because they still have to go to work, right? Travel to work or spend work a lot on the time. But when you are working from home, I think, and growing your kids next to it's one of the best things.
One of the benefits of working from home is more time with your family, for sure. And that will have an impact over time now, because a lot more people are going to be working from home.
Right. During the COVID, I was one of them, who was telling everybody that we're going to go to work from office, because I was afraid how the productivity is going to be from work, because you have no idea what people are doing, if they're sitting in pajamas, or if they're actually working or not, or they're just collecting checks, right? I was not sure. But later, once we start actually putting systems together,
to be able to tell what they're doing.
Yes, and OKRs, KPIs, and productivity and results, I actually to keep the people like remotely now, and they're much more productive instead of actually putting them in one office. Actually, we solve our organizational structure problem. You remember you saw my org structure?
Yeah, I saw it.
That organization structure, actually, we see how it virtually now. Like, and people follow their command lines. They know who they report to. They have their own KPIs, and they're much more productive. And I don't want to take away that. And they can travel. And I tell them, like, go travel as much you can. Work from wherever you want. You don't have to sit in one place. Just let us know that you're traveling at this day, so we know that if the internet connection, so we know that what is happening, that we're not going to be looking for you, right? But I want them to travel as much as they can. They traveling, and sometimes in Hawaii, sometimes in Europe, sometimes in like Aspen, like all over, right? It's now is the kind of work environment completely changed.
Having internet access and a portable computer, you can do business anywhere in the world now.
And I believe you are traveling a lot now, right? Like you told me
Travel
last time.
a lot.
You're putting like 4 travels a year now already?
I've done 12 trips in the last 14 months.
12 trips.
And we still have our 7:30 a.m. morning meetings in my office, most of which I attend remotely.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was younger, I would go to Africa for 4 months, call in once a week on Friday to see how things were going. And, you know, the law practice struggled while I was gone, but I wanted to travel. Now, with your cell phone in your pocket, if there's an emergency, you get a message right away and you can react to it when you have time. It's a whole different world than it was 50 years ago.
Yeah, with your phone, I think now you can even install like cloud bots and AI agents, like they can do your work as well.
That's right.
You're much more productive now. Like, yeah. You're curious enough, you want to implement those things, you want to learn, then yes. Some people, they don't want to do anything about it.
You know, there's so much good technology out there now available for everybody and inexpensive.
Yeah.
You know, in the old days, you had to have money to buy a computer. You can now buy a fabulous Apple computer for $499.
Yeah.
It's just a whole new world out there.
It's growing that fast. It's getting like, it's improving so fast. I got introduced months ago for wipe coding. I never really coded before. I was able to finish in 1 month on MVP, on the early stage, whatever tools what we use for the internal teams, whatever I couldn't do it for 10 years, I was able to do it in 1 month. Like I went from using 0 tokens to almost like I'm spending like $6,000 in tokens now because it gives me results, right? Like the value of that, what I'm building it's limitless for now. And the growth of, if you really look at that hockey stick of Delta, how that thing is actually that Lovable is one of the products we use. It went from 0 to $100 million MRR in 4 months. They became $10 billion company in 4 months. That's integrating so fast. And I had to let go my product team, my junior developers, and the QA and designers, because AI does better job than do. They couldn't adapt fast enough, because when I asked for the interview, the product team, do you use this tool? They couldn't tell me yes, because they should be more advanced than I do on those tools, because I'm like a plumber or a technician, right? Like I should not be knowing what I know. They should be in IT world. They have to know that more than I do.
That's right.
And my goal now for the company, we spend about like $500,000 on payroll now a month. I want to actually shrink that payroll to $250,000 a month, 50%, or not even shrink it. I want to get token utilization and software utilization be 50% of my company spend.
Sure.
Like maybe we're gonna keep that on $500,000 a month, but I want to spend another $500,000, like approximately on token utilization, because it means you are getting productivity usage, right? I want to have 50-50. Sure. Eventually, maybe we're gonna get like 80% on token utilization and 20% on payroll. That is gonna be, I think, the most productive things you can get.
And you will get there.
Yeah.
It's just how long will it take?
Yeah, I think it was how fast it's growing. I think we're going to get there.
Knowledge base and accomplishments. I'm on the UCLA Medical Board. And they had a meeting last year with 3 very prominent AI founders. And one of them was a doctor. In the next 10 years, we will do 100 years worth of research in medicine. Mm-hmm. All the things we thought it would take 100 years to solve will be solved in 10. Because of AI.
I can imagine, yeah.
They will have cures for all these things that we worry about today in a very short period of time.
Yeah, because if you connect all that data, I'm not sure if the 23andMe has API connection. I would love to connect that to Apple Health and other sensors, right? If you connect all of them in one place, and you can really know your body, yourself, what works, what doesn't work, right?
The start of understanding medicine is defining proteins. They just started defining, line code, what a protein is in the 80s. And they did some small number of proteins over a 10-year period. I don't remember, 10 or 20,000 proteins. And then all of a sudden the computers got so good, for the next 10 years, they did 40 or 50,000 proteins. In the last 2 years, they've done 200 million proteins defined. In the last 2 years, because of AI. Once you know what those are, then you can start saying, okay, let's take them apart and figure out how they work. Yeah. Which is what they're doing for medical discoveries. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah. Rick, you are a big Dodgers fan, and we even went to Dodgers game together. You invited me. It was one of the really interesting experience I ever seen.
That's great.
I didn't know, been living in LA for 20 years, I didn't know that culture part of the LA. And the question is, do sports and places like stadiums play a big role in business culture of LA, like crypto, LA, Lakers, Dodgers, right? What is your intake? And I believe you have a yearly pass on that, right? You invite your clients and friends, I believe.
Yeah.
And you go there that often, you told me?
I do go often. I have season tickets to Lakers and Dodgers. Impact of sports on our lives really showed through when COVID started. And they canceled everything for months. And it was truly a change in lifestyle for me and almost everybody I knew, just that sports part. And then they brought it back slowly, and it came back, and it's bigger than it's ever been. And, people were worried that people would be disenchanted with sports and they would go away because of COVID. Didn't happen. Now you're getting some really good business people involved in the sports team. So the Dodgers are making a fortune because they know how. The Lakers are going to make a fortune because the Dodger management team is now the Laker management team. I expect my ticket prices to skyrocket this year for next year. But the sports is just a part of who we're made of. There are a lot of people in this country who live and die sports all the time, and it's their joy in life, and that's wonderful that it can make people so happy. And it happens to be a very big economic factor.
Which one? You are Dodgers. Not how often you go to Lakers, or which one? How often you go to Dodgers?
The Dodgers have 81 home games. I have 18 home games this year. I share them with other people. I can't go to 81 games.
Yeah.
And then the playoffs, so there'll be more games. The Lakers are half as many, and I share that with a group of people. I have 10 Laker tickets, so I go to the game, during the season every 2 or 3 weeks during the Dodgers and during
How
Lakers.
long you been going there?
35
years?
Plus and more. I've been doing it since my kids were born, 40 years, and I love it.
Yeah, it was. I was introduced to that, and I was like, wow, this part of life of LA, I didn't know.
My kids grew up big Dodger fans and Laker fans, but big Dodger fans. My oldest son he would go to every game if he could.
I believe your son is a musician, right?
Yes. He has a doctorate from USC Thornton School, and he's teaching at Musicians Institute, finishing his thesis. He's finished all the other work. I keep saying, get that thesis. It's important.
You didn't want him to go after law degrees?
No. I wanted him to do what he wanted to do.
We are working with interns on our corporate M&A team. We got 7 interns on corporate M&A.
Good.
On mergers acquisition. We are going over the
That's
deal.
good
They're
stuff.
learning a lot. Mm-hmm. And after 6-8 months or a year, of course, they are finding investment banking or the place to go. But they already have the resume. They already have the experience, how to go through the LOIs, how to actually get it, how to sign NDAs. They already have an experience being inside the deals, right? They're getting really good experience.
That's great.
Yeah. And I think becoming an intern on the being inside the deals, I think one of the best. If I was younger myself, first thing I would actually go to the M&A probably. Most startups fail because of what?
One person who's been around to kind of mentor them and help them, so that when they come up with a crazy idea that could really hurt them, they'll stop them. And most of the people who come into me with new ideas have really good ideas. Most of them, when I was younger, if somebody didn't know what they were doing, I would tell them to do their homework. I'd tell them which homework to do. But today, they've done their homework. A lot of them are educated. They've gone to business school. They have parents who've owned their own businesses. And entrepreneurism is here to stay. But the smarter you are, the more you surround yourself with good people, the better chance you have for success.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, I think today you mentioned a lot about the mentorship and about giving back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're doing it with these podcasts.
Yeah, definitely. This podcast is for that, actually, like to actually give back to the new founders who are starting up, younger Sardors, younger Ricks, who wants to start up their own startups and founders. Actually, they can learn by the mistakes of others, not to do the mistakes, right? Like if I wish I had this kind of podcast like when I was starting, probably I would do less mistakes. Yeah, always look. You have to always look for the mentors. And when people say it's like, I cannot find the mentors, no, you're not looking probably. You're not asking for the mentors.
Yep.
And when you're open to learn, open for coaching, the mentors will show up.
Thank you, Sardor, for the opportunity to be here today. It was really a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, Rick. It was really a pleasure to having you. It was really eye-opening, and I'm sure a lot of founders, a lot of startup founders, and whoever listening and watching this podcast will enjoy it. They enjoyed it, our conversation, and I'm sure they learned a lot from your life journey and all of your experience in the law and business. It's really a unique combination what you have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Super.
Thank you for asking.